My name is Imran Khan and I am the co-founder and managing director of Rapid Compute, which is Cybernet's cloud computing division. So I've been in the IT industry for the last 16 to 17 years. I'm a computer science major by education, and but I've never done any coding development or any engineering in my life. So I've been involved in many things in IT. I've been involved in the data center space. I've also been involved in the software space. I've worked with companies like AT&T, Egyptian Telecom, even ran my own startup for a while a couple of years back. And and about 6-7 years ago, when I was in Cybernet, we thought of introducing cloud computing to Pakistan and set out to launch the product in 2011, which was pretty new for Pakistan at that time. So me and my co-founder Zaim, we decided to take the plunge and we set up Pakistan's first public cloud computing platform. And it's been an interesting journey. We've never looked back since. This May 29th, we celebrate our 7th year in operations, in commercial operations, and alhamdulillah, we've been going from strength to strength. And now, thankfully, Pakistan is also looking at new digital, like they say, the digital change, the digital conversion, and now CIOs and CTOs all across the country are looking at optimizing their footprint, considering stuff like the cloud, private clouds, hybrid clouds, to maximize their company efficiencies, minimize their costs. And we're very excited that this change is taking place, because we've seen the industry grow over the last 7 to 8 years, and we feel that we're very well equipped to help these organizations take this big change in their organizational life cycle. I think it's very interesting what's happening nowadays, stuff with the startups, stuff with the whole ecosystem coming in, investments coming in, venture capitalism starting to thrive. So we're seeing this big change towards the digital value addition to your conventional revenue streams. So if you look at e-commerce, if you look at taxi services, they now turn into ride-hailing services like Uber and Careem. If you look at courier services, if you look at retail, everything's become so dynamic and so digital. Look at the fintech space, look at all these mobile wallets coming in. Brick and mortar is becoming a thing of the past. All of that, as a cloud provider and as a value adder, excites us greatly, because all of this requires pretty agile, pretty and a pretty innovative approach to how you do it. And I think Pakistanis excel in leapfrogging other economies. If you look at 3G, 4G, we were 6 to 7 years late. But if you look at 4.5 and 5G, we're actually faster than or on par with a lot of the developing world. So similarly, in the cloud space, in the IT value addition space, I am hoping that we will similarly be on par with the rest of the developing world as we go forward. So, in fact, this is briefly explained. So, cloud adoption has greatly improved over time, and that is directly linked to access to information. So there was, back in 2011 when we started, we were almost ridiculed for introducing public cloud computing in Pakistan, because we were told that koi hosting nahi karega, nobody will put their data on your cloud, because there was such little information available locally. And most of it was coming through the internet or through media, Amazon, Azure. Azure wasn't around back then, but AWS and Rackspace was there. So people were quite wary of using public cloud services. And I'll be very honest, and I've shared this in many keynote speeches I've given, we practically made no money the first year. So I think my revenue for the first year, I can easily disclose, was like $70, like in that year. But it was okay, because we were pretty prepared for it, because we knew it was something that we'd have to advocate and we'd have to work on. So we were pretty okay. In fact, we celebrated that $70 with cutting a cake, having sushi, spending more money than the PO itself. But after 2012, things changed. And there are many reasons that attributed to that change. Firstly, information became more readily available, thanks to a lot of system integrators and the resellers that came to the Pakistani market to make the product more accessible. Sometimes competition is actually a good thing, because more information gets out. Number two, most of these large companies or old companies, they started developing new real estate for themselves. So you had a lot of companies who built their own offices, their buildings, moved into places like Dolgan Executive Tower, where property was very expensive. So when property gets expensive and the IT guys start saying, I need like 800 to 1000 square feet for a data center, CFO throws a fit. So even that contributed to a lot of the companies considering stuff like data center co-location. Okay, if not data center co-location, then what about the cloud? So a lot of things started happening at the same time. At the same time, there was a brain drain. So good IT professionals in the system side were hard to come across. So again, people started looking towards people like Rapid Compute, Cybernet, other system integrators to also do the managed services thing. And then so on and so forth. So eventually by the end of 2012, we started to see this great shift where people were starting to get more comfortable with, or in some cases extremely dependent on the managed services aspect of system delivery. And then we started seeing a greater cloud adoption. 2013 was better because certain regulations and frameworks started coming in that started giving people more comfort. Stuff like ISO 27001 became mandatory, so that gave people a lot of comfort. And then 2014 and 15 and then 16 was actually the turning point where the State Bank and SECP actually came up with very concrete regulations that give companies a bit of a comfort level in terms of arbitration or legalities, that if ever an issue were to take place or there were any kind of legality involved, they would have regulatory backing from the government. And I think that was the turning point, because since early 2016, in the last 2 years, 2.25 years, we've seen a dramatic uptake. So I can easily say that if I can relate it to my business as being a representative of what's happening in the industry, my business has grown about tenfold in terms of the number of queries that I'm addressing on a weekly basis. So now we have fintechs who want to move to the cloud, we have FMCGs, manufacturing, financial institutions, government sector who want to cut through the hassle of all the red tape by simply going on a service model. So it's changed drastically and it's continuing to evolve. Now we have startups who in their funding, when they ask for funding, include cloud model in their costing model and they don't look at infrastructure. So it's getting better and better, and I believe 2018 as well, due to similar factors, is also going to be a very big year for cloud adoption in Pakistan. Well, it looks fantastic for all of us, I'll be very honest to say. So this is something that we were advocating for quite a while. We've been personally involved with the State Bank in 2016. Then the first draft was written. In fact, I might have the first draft lying around somewhere in my inbox. And in fact, this new one is a lot more improved than that. And they're making some further additions still, because there are some grey areas in this as well regarding local providers. But this was very long needed, and there's this misconception in the market I'd like to clarify. And unfortunately, a lot of foreign providers are pushing this misconception that we're going back to the Stone Ages and Pakistan is not looking to welcome international investment. And I'm sorry to say this is all, you know what I want to say. It's all that because I've traveled to Europe, I've traveled to England specifically to look at their G-Cloud framework, which is one of the leading frameworks in the world for cloud regulation. I've been to Amsterdam, I've been to Las Vegas, LA, I'm going to Singapore right now as well. There are majority of the developed countries in the world do not allow international cloud providers to host any data classified as sovereign, which includes your social security, NIC, passport, credit card, home address, phone number, anything, travel license, anything on the cloud if that cloud does not reside physically within the country's boundaries. So this myth or this story that is being spun that we are in the dark ages, we are in fact very late to this regulation. As early as last October, I was in Amsterdam and Microsoft and other companies were actually pitching to the government to allow them to offer Azure services, and the European Union has still not relented. And they have kept a condition, because Amsterdam is considered as a neutral venue, that unless they set up, AWS included, a cloud physical data center within the European Union designated premises, they will not be allowed to operate. So it's not just us. Other people are also putting same kind of requirements on these big companies, that if they want to host local sovereign data, it needs to be hosted locally. So this is something that we will lobby for quite a while on behalf of the industry. And us and PDC and Multinet and everybody else, we're quite happy this has happened, because that has caused a lot of banks, you'll be surprised, who are hosted abroad, a lot of fintech companies, a lot of BI analytics companies, a lot of pharma to suddenly move back to Pakistan. which has not only given us, PDCL, Antinet, other people good business, but has also now created this understanding in the industry that local setups need to be hosted locally. For security, for performance, for reliability, and also to foster the local setup. Otherwise, then what's the point? Why am I doing all of this? I just become like a Microsoft or an AWS reseller. What's the point of me doing it? So there are one or two things that are very important. Firstly, unfortunately, it still continues to be a mindset challenge, right? So a lot of people who are old school, as they would put it, they prefer a brick and mortar setup. So they would request me to co-locate hardware, their own hardware, rather than use the cloud service provision, and that continues to be still today's largest challenge. That they will put something inconsequential on the cloud, but they would not like to put anything that's sensitive. Even though they know that the cloud failure rate is infinitely lower than the hardware failure rate in their own data centers. So mindset is still number one, has always been still number one, which I'm hoping and I'm quite sure will not be the problem if you ask me the same question 18 months later. I think mindset will be probably number three. The second is the unrealistic cost expectations. So basically, cloud is not an alternative to hardware. CIOs still don't understand that. Cloud is an alternate operational model as a whole. So a lot of people, what they do is they ask you the costing of the cloud. Ask you, when I say you, I mean me, PDCL and other people, and they say, यार ये तो उतना ही बन रहा है जितना मेरा सर्वर का डब्बा बन जाएगा 3 साल में. So because their understanding is that if I take cloud, which is by the way by definition high availability, for every one VM he has another copy somewhere and all that glamour and feature set built in, he somehow assumes that cloud is going to be half the cost of me buying a box. Because he's doing an apple to a pineapple comparison, not even an orange, because an orange is also round like an apple, but a pineapple is not. So he assumes it's going to be half the cost, but it's not the case, because like I said, cloud is an alternate business model. So there's stuff like you save on HR, you save on data center space, real estate, and management, efficiencies, scalability, budgeting. People don't take that into account. So the second challenge is also the unrealistic expectations. So you'd be surprised that enterprise sales teams at Azure and AWS that I've met abroad have very easier tasks. They're usually just doing SLAs and contracts. Over here, the enterprise team that we're doing advocacy, TCO sheets like total cost of ownership, site visits, assurities, references, just to get someone to understand how we're doing it. So these two simply remain still the largest challenges. There's nothing technical. It's not like they don't trust me or they think that my product is inferior in any way. But it's not like they would take it to Amazon. These people would not take it to Amazon or Azure as well. They just won't take it anywhere. So having competitors come into the market is always a good thing, because unless there are competitors, the size of the pie will only be as large as your own reach, because you're like the only player, right? So जितना आपका staff है, जितनी आपकी reach है, pie उतना ही बड़ा है, उससे बड़ा हो नहीं सकता. But when competitors come in, the best direct benefit you have is the size of the pie increases, because there are so many other more people creating so many more touch points in the market. So that is a direct benefit, and we're very thankful to the people who stepped into the market. Till about November 2016, for 5 years, we were like the only player. But then now recently 2-3 more players have started coming in. So it's a positive thing, because now more people are aware about what cloud is. The negative. Like I mentioned earlier, this is already a market that's very skeptical of the cloud, regardless of what the adoption rates are. A lot of people who are competing in this space just haven't made the kind of investment or the kind of attention to detail like some of us have. I won't say just myself, but like other people who've done a decent job. When an IT manager or when a company has a bad experience with the cloud, it's not just that he's going to switch to another cloud provider. He will kind of be wary of the cloud for the next 1 or 2 years. Completely. So not only has he killed his business, he's killed my business and let's say somebody else's business, plus he's also done the industry a great disservice that now you have this big CIO who's going to be ranting all over his colleagues saying cloud to the jana nahi, the fazul cheez hai, maine try kar liya. So the disadvantage is that when more competitors come in, not all of them comply to the same standards or the quality of service that you would like them to. which then can create a problem for all the decent providers that are left behind. Because फिर जब आप बंदे के पास आके बोलते सर मैं ऐसा नहीं हूँ, वो कहते हैं सब यही कहते हैं, उसने भी यही कहा था। ये एक बहुत बड़ा अलमिया है, जिसकी वजह से बहुत सारे ऐसे बड़े इदारे या बड़ी कंपनीज हैं जिन्होंने लिटरली कह दिया है मुझे भी और मेरे फेलो कंपेटिटर मतलब पीयर्स इन द इंडस्ट्री को भी कि यार 1-2 साल के लिए तो भूल जाना, क्लाउड ने हमने मशीन लेनी है, हमने क्लाउड ले जाना, हमारा बहुत बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस है। तो जहाँ अच्छाई है कि पीस ऑफ साइज ऑफ द पाई बड़ा हुआ है, वहाँ नुकसान भी होता है कि जो अच्छा प्रोडक्ट डिलीवर नहीं करता वो पूरी इंडस्ट्री खराब करता है। ये देखिए यूजर इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो we were like the first cloud provider who was the first like ISO 27001, 2013, PCI DSL 3.2 back when everybody thought we were nuts for doing that certification because it's time consuming and expensive. But we did it because we knew where the landscape, where it was going. Because State Bank and everybody else was coming up with regulations and with the kind of digital economy that was coming in, from fintechs to internet banking to everything else, this is going to be the need of the hour. So that was the first part of your question. Second part, no, it's not just all talk. There is implementation happening. But लोग अपने pace पे अपने हिसाब से implementation कर रहे हैं. So you won't have people like in the West going all guns blazing and investing like $2-3 million in security software and कुछ ऐसा नहीं है. But people are taking gradual steps. There are some people who invested in HR and are working their way up using open source tools and then hoping to make a case point for their management and then investing in more, robust, expensive systems. And then there are people who are far advanced and they're doing implementation and they're treating it more like an organization. In fact, I know a couple of banks and non-banking institutions as well who are treating data security and confidentiality more as an organizational culture. Where everybody from the bottom up is being taught to take responsibility. So implementation काफी हो रही है. So if you talk about rapid compute, we are currently involved just in this year alone, which is just 3 months old this year, in 3 or 4 large InfoSec deployments for government and non-government organizations. जिसमें आपके stuff like SOC, Security Operations Center, SIEM, which is security and incident management, DDoS mitigation. We're doing massive DDoS, cyber, security deployment, monitoring, evaluation. So it's not just talk, काम हो रहा है. What percentage of the people are doing it? I wouldn't be able to tell you at this point in time because it's fairly recent. But ये मैं आपको बताऊं कि it's not just all talk. काफी काम हो रहा है, काफी पैसा भी खर्च हो रहा है because it has become very necessary in the light of so many cyber attacks. आपने देखा है बैंक्स के कितने हुए हैं, रिसेंटली गवर्नमेंट पे भी बहुत सारे अटैक्स हुए, रिसेंटली लोग इंटरनेट बैंकिंग पे भी अटैक हुए, लोगों के पैसे विड्रॉ हो गए, गलत पैसे लग गए, फॉरेन करेंसी चार्जेस लग गए. सो इन लाइट ऑफ दैट दिस थिंग्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. देखिए, so AI is a very specialized and AI is driven majorly by use case. सही है. So उससे पहले आपने IoT का पूछा था. तो IoT में देखिए बहुत काम होना शुरू हो गया, काफी काम हो रहा है. क्लाउड पे भी हो रहा है, वैसे भी हो रहा है बहुत सारा काम IoT में. So there are people who are doing a lot of agricultural stuff on IoT currently in Punjab. We are also hosting a couple of very large government initiatives on the cloud for IoT and it's working very well, very impressive. Then there are people who are doing stuff in healthcare for IoT. So there's now work being done on the remote monitoring of patients who have like diabetes, who got like heart conditions and other problems, epilepsy and other things. We're using remote monitoring. वो हो रहा है. बाकी basic गाड़ियों के बहुत पुरानी गाड़ी devices वो तो बहुत पहले से हो गई. But काफी अच्छा काम हो रहा है IoT पे. And telcos like Telenor are quite the front runners of that time. They've been doing it for years. जो AI का है ना, so AI में I've seen some work happening in the last quarter of 2017 and most of them are people who come back from the States. Because like I said, AI is very use case driven. You have to know what area you want to apply AI and machine learning to. So there's been a lot of work done in Thailand, in AI. There's been a lot of work done in the Middle East. Surprisingly, there's a lot of work in the US. So a lot of the US people, locals from the US have come back and they started their own companies. And are working a lot on AI. So even our organization, CyberNet, we've also set up an AI division now, and we're going to start working on cloud-based, very similar to what Google has announced in the recent conference that they did, using TensorFlow and specific chipset architecture. So we've started working along those lines, and we'll be deploying those as well. But I don't see any practical use case emerging out of it, at least in the next 12 to 18 months. Because like I said, it's use case based. So a lot of people will first study the landscape to see what's the use case for AI, and B, it takes time to develop. It's a very slow process. One of the key areas I'm seeing AI being used in right now, both open source and commercial ones like IBM, Watson and stuff, is more on the customer experience part. So people are using like AI chatbots a lot. Even we've started using it for some of our consumer products. That's not our stuff. So AI chatbots, AI customer experience, AI customer service. So that's where it started because, like I said, that's an immediate use case. But I have heard it's going towards locally in other areas such as legal consultancy, basic legal consultancy, telemedicine, and so these are the two use cases I've recently heard and met people who are working on. And then sky's the limit. It could pretty much go to anything at all. So we've done from like July 2017 to July 18, Jodi Hoga, June 30th, 18. We wanted it to be the fiscal year of innovation for us. And we had decided that this year we will, besides doing the run-of-the-mill operational expansion, we will do some new things. So we did a couple of new things and new partnerships. We partnered up with a lot of local software houses in this fiscal year. Stuff people like Contegris and CRP and C Square. And we've done a recent big partnership with Pasha as part of an outreach to a lot of the local software houses to encourage them to use local and stuff like that. We're also now working in a big way with one of the largest ERP providers in the world. I won't want to name them, but we hope to be the first licensed service provider for that product in the region, not just in the country but in the region. So that's something exciting that we'll announce next 60 to 90 days. Also, we are doing a big thing for startups, probably in the middle of next quarter, which is going to be one of a kind in Pakistan, both from a technology and from a commercial point of view, and that's very exciting. Probably in May we'll be doing that, so these are two big things that we're doing. Along with that, we're looking to do a lot of social outreach into government and privately funded schools, from low-income areas, where we are trying to bring computer and technology education as a whole to create awareness. So we've already started some engagement on that front, but we hope to do more of that front on the CSR part. So these are 2 or 3 big things that we're doing before June this year, and then for the next year we'll tell you when we'll meet next year. Nothing. It's an exciting time for Pakistan. The only thing I would like to message to go to startups, CIOs and other entrepreneurs is we start looking inwardly and locally. People love quoting Azure and AWS. So please इनकी history पढ़ें, इनकी किताबें पढ़ें. They became so big, Alibaba, they became so big because their local people and nationals had faith in their people, and 99% of their revenue and growth came from the local industry. We love to emulate these guys, but we don't understand they are the giants that they are because their local people chose to give them business and to endorse to grow the industry. अभी भी हमारे मुल्क में people wear this badge of pride on their shirt कि मैंने तो Amazon को दे दिया, मैंने तो Azure को दे दिया, मैंने तो Rackspace को दे दिया. ठीक है, they are far ahead from people like me, Billigan and others, but they got there. It was a journey. At least give us the opportunity to start that journey. लोग बहुत प्राउडली कहते हैं बाहर दे दिया, नॉट रियलाइजिंग कि जिनको उन्होंने बाहर दिया उनका सारा धंधा लोकल ही आता है. So yes, we might not be there at feature set, we might not be there in the scale, but only if the local, we are a large population, we have got hundreds of millions of people. If you start endorsing us, we will get there as well, and we'll make you realize that we can give you the same quality of service that others can abroad. So my message would remain the same as it's been for the last 2 years. Buy local, endorse local, guide us, danda kare, help us elevate our game rather than just abandoning us and then going abroad. That will always be my message. Thanks a lot.